Aloha. Welcome to the Walking in Aloha, Let's Talk Story podcast. We're so glad to have you here. Et como mai. Now here's our podcast host and award-winning author, Michelle.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. Happy New Year, everyone. We are here on a very special New Year's 2026 episode of the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast, where we are not just talking about goals, we are talking about delivering dreams. And I am your host, Michelle Ebalaroza Kawano. I'm a speaker, author, and creative coach, MAGEK for short. I know it's a very long name, but I want to ask you, have you ever felt called to more, but totally unsure about where to begin? Well, today's conversation is your permission slip to a new 2026. It's a whole new year. Joining us here today is Sally Lean, award-winning international educator, teen success coach, and speaker, founder of Lean In to Succeed. I love that. Sally Lean in. Everyone, lean in. With over 2 decades of global experience across Australia, China, Singapore, and Thailand, Sally helps people of all ages build confidence, leadership, and future-ready skills, starting with one powerful truth. Your dreams are not random. They are your direction. So in this episode, Sally unpacks on how one day thinking keeps people stuck and how you can turn one day into a decision. We talk about clarity over comparison, courage over comfort, and why your dreams matters more than just writing down goals and just writing them down. So as you step into 2026, take a breath and let's just talk story because your time is now. Sally, thank you for joining us here. Before we start with all of the questions that I sent you, we always go through the Aloha framework, but I want to hear more about you and I want you to share a little bit about yourself to everyone here on the Walking in Aloha podcast.
Well, first of all, thank you, Michelle. Happy New Year and aloha to you.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you for inviting me to join you today. What a pleasure it is. And I've heard you speak a number of times now, and I just love your magical storytelling voice that you have. And your message as well, your personal journey is just so and you share it so powerfully. So what a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you. So I guess I've had an interesting journey of my own, spending 22 years in Asia, living and working there. And I went first as a student, and one adventure led to another. One of the reasons or the inspiration, I guess, behind the messages that I share is my own journey, and which sort of began as a teenager. I was a horsey girl, and I was very fortunate to have been gifted a pony from the age of 6 by my parents, who were quite adventurous in their own ways as well. And I grew up around horses for the next 12 years and worked my way up through pony club, and I started getting into gymkhanas and showing and all that sort of thing. But I made it to riding dressage and representing my zone at interstate dressage competitions and all the amazing things that you do. And if you'd have asked teenage Sally back then what my big dream was, I would have told you without hesitation that I wanted to be selected to ride dressage at the Olympics one day and represent Australia. And so, that was my big dream, and I knew that would take a lot. But I was sustained by the fact that around that time, the gentleman who won the gold medal for dressage at the Olympics was 62 years old. I thought, excellent, I've got time to get there, However, sadly, when I finished school, I had to sell my horse, and in order to be able to afford to go away to university, for the next stage, the next dream, I guess, in life. It was the day that the news drove away with my little beautiful horse in their trailer. I was like, MG, now what? And I remember going home, and I had my bedroom was festooned with all my ribbons and sashes hanging vertically all around. I didn't have anything else on the walls, just all these ribbons and sashes and trophies on the bookshelf and all that sort of thing. And I started packing everything into a box, piece by piece. And, as you can imagine, tears streaming, heartbroken. And I just so clearly remember packing all my trophies into this box and going out into my parents' garage and finding a kind of a spot in the corner shelf way up in the corner of the garage, out of the way, where I figured nobody would kind of mess with the box, and put it way up there in the top shelf of the garage. And I didn't realize until years later that I'd left my Olympic dream on the shelf that date. And so it was lost. Unfortunately, I was moving into the next phase of life and went away to university to follow another dream. But it just, it was so devastating at the time. And yet, in having the courage to do what I needed to do in order to follow my next dream, which was to have to sell my horse so that I could afford to go to university, one thing led to another. And I was going to university to study languages, which I'd studied in middle school, but then we moved and I didn't have the opportunity to study in high school. And I knew that's sort of where I wanted to go with things, because I was hoping that perhaps if I focused on language and build some other skills as well, but I could maybe have the opportunity to live and work overseas. So, and the language that it was compulsory for me to learn in middle school in Melbourne, actually, Melbourne, Australia, where I am. Or I'm not living there now, but was in Melbourne. And we had to study Chinese. So it was very strange back then in the 1980s. Don't do the math on that, by the way, to be in middle school in the 80s and have compulsory to study Chinese was very rare, in Australia. And so it was just really such an amazing opportunity that ended up opening so many wonderful things for me. And off I went to university, and I think it was during my second year, I heard about an opportunity to do a year in Asia. They called it a year in Asia program. So go for a year of in-country experience. So, I followed my heart and I thought, yeah, and my parents were crazy enough to allow me to go off, wandering off in the early 90s, to this far-flung country where before the days of internet or anything like that, we had snail mail. You had to write a letter in those days or make an expensive international phone call. And so, and that year in China was such an amazing, incredible adventure that it inspired me to really go on and to do more and learn more about my, about the language and the history and culture and all of that. I ended up getting a job, first of all, as a teacher in Australia, teaching Chinese, yes, with this face. And later on, after a few years, I was offered the opportunity to go and work in China at an international school. So teaching international kids Chinese. And you can imagine the pressure that I felt as a second language speaker, surrounded by 1.4 billion native speakers of the language. It was really, and so for a few years I was very quiet. I, quite happy sharing with my students in my class and making the odd speech here and there, for educational situations, not really putting myself out there. And it was only when I did a personal breakthrough program that really things shifted for me. And I realized that I had two voices and I needed to be stepping up and using my voice to make a difference in the world. And so I overcame that fear of speaking Chinese, and instead of worrying about getting it right, I just got into the realm of connecting with people, right? People to people. So we're just connecting and yeah, it was just a huge shift for me, and it made such a difference. And so when one day an opportunity came up, a friend of a friend, one of those introductions, right? Friend of a friend contacted me and said that a friend of his was coming to work in Beijing, and could I help her out and, keep an eye on things and all that. I said, of course I will, and made contact. And after a couple of weeks, she was busy settling in or trying, getting her feet on the ground. We went out for dinner. I said, what are you doing here? And she said, oh, I'm a producer for the Seven Network Australia, and I'm here to set up for the television coverage of the Beijing Olympics. And so we chatted a little bit, and I said, do you need any interpreters by any chance? And she said, yes, we do. I said, I'm interested. She said, great, you're in.
Wow.
So it was absolutely fantastic. So I helped her, to find an apartment and, introduced her to a very reliable, trustable, local maid who could clean for her and do all those things to make sure she was supported so she could focus on her work. And it was just wonderful. So I ended up, there I was on opening night of the Beijing Olympics in Beijing, right there at the Bird's Nest Stadium with the fireworks going off, over the stadium, and the incredible roar of the crowds around the city. It sounded like rolling thunder as everyone was cheering, like 30 million people around Beijing cheering.
Wow.
It was just, goosebumps, right? You can imagine. And I suddenly realized that my Olympic dream had just come true, only in a very different way than what I'd experienced, right? As a teenager and what I'd hoped for as a teenager. And so when I talk about dreams, it's not the random dreams that we have at night, which is a whole other function of clearing our subconscious and doing all those things. It's our dreams in life that we have and we hold. And as we all know as adults, what sometimes happens is that we get busy. Life starts lifing, and you go to school, and maybe you go to college or university, or maybe you start working. But either way, at some point you start to focus on your career, and you find perhaps a partner, and then you might be thinking about buying a house, and you get a mortgage, and you have kids, and life is lifing, right? And as you get busier and more involved and immersed in things, what often happens is that those dreams that we had when we were younger, or maybe that were so dear to us at one point, sort of get left by the wayside, left in the dust of what's gone before, because there's so many other things that happen. As we know, when we are working towards a big goal or a dream that's really drives our passion and interest, life feels very different than when we're just doing the hamster on the wheel thing, right? Doing what we need to do because we have to do it, paying the bills, doing the things and all of that. It's not that it's totally joyless, but we lose that passion and that inspiration that can happen otherwise. Yeah, if I can just share one more thing too, the inspiration, I guess, really came out of a few years ago during COVID. Everyone remembers COVID, right? And the impact around the world of that. And I decided to walk away from my career and go home and support my dad with his health as he's aging, go back to my hometown in Australia. And it was a conscious choice, and one that I've continued to make every day since then. But it was involved a huge change. You can imagine, from a fairly high-flying international career in Asia, and in the realm of Chinese language teaching, I became quite well known with this space and, doing what I did, and the amazing opportunities that I had working with incredibly great schools in and around Asia, as well international schools, some of the best in the world. So it was such an opportunity for me. And I really, when I came back to Australia, I thought, all right, I'll allow 6 months sabbatical. I'll sort of do some personal coaching and sort of clear, whatever needs clearing, and refocus and find my way forward and figure out, find a job and do the things. And what I didn't e- even understand or allow for was the impact of stepping away from a career that had been very much immersed in. And the impact of that was that I lost my identity, of who I'd been, and all the things that I'd been working for over 20 years. And, and as I said, one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. And these incredible opportunities, like being involved for 6 weeks, at the Beijing Olympics in 2008, incredible opportunities. I got to meet incredible people from all around the world doing all sorts of amazing things with their work in China, international people. And I made really beautiful, incredible Chinese friends as well along the way. So when I came back to Australia, to my hometown, I had some old friends there. Most people had moved away, and I thought, oh gosh, so who am I in the world? And I didn't have the next dream, the next step in place, because I didn't know what might come next. And I didn't know what I'd be able to create from, downtown Wagga Wagga, Australia. I mean, it's a beautiful small city, regional city in Australia, but it's not, a city of tens of millions of people like I was used to living in Asia for many years, right? So it's like, now what? So it felt like there was a real grinding of gears as I was trying to reacclimatize, and the reverse culture shock is a real thing, right? So yeah, I had to figure out what was next, and there's been a whole series of steps in creating what has come next since then. But it was inside of also finding myself and being re-inspired by possibilities for myself about who I can be and what I can do in the world to make a contribution as well.
That's so incredible. That is, like you said, from Beijing and having to choose. And like you said, it was a conscious decision, but having to take care of your dad. And that sometimes, we have to make those decisions, but we don't want to say, because of the choices that we make, we have to give up our dreams. And so that's why it's such a good thing that now you've found that you don't give up your dreams, you actually, it's your direction. And that's why you're here, to show us that from the horses, and doing that. And you felt like, oh no, I'm giving up a dream. And then it was in another way, you still was at the Olympics, those kind of things. It's like, I always say God orchestrates things in ways that we don't expect. We don't
Indeed.
expect, but it still happens. And how you said that feeling, being in the bird nest. Okay, so I went to China and actually just seeing the bird nest. Okay, just seeing it. I was not even in it. It still had that same, like, I was amazed at the fact that I was even there to be that near and I was able to take a picture of it. And I'm like, I could imagine how it was to be in it. I only watched it on TV, but you were actually in it. So that is amazing.
Yeah.
And I can
Incredible.
just feel it through you, your excitement.
The opening night, right? And I was
Right.
actually, for the earlier part of the evening, stationed in what we call a live cross station. So I was with two Australian TV compares and a station just outside. So we were speaking to the Australian athletes as they were walking ready for the Parade of
Yeah.
Nations, and chatting with them, and it was just so electric. Like literally, the hairs on the back of your neck was standing up because it was so exciting to be right there in
Right.
the moment. And one of the producers said, he said, look around, because right now in this moment we are at the cutting edge of media technology in the world. Whatever is available is here with us. And I
Wow.
should add, one incredible part of that whole experience was that several months later, we all got an email from Network 7 Australia informing us that after each Olympics, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, gives awards for media coverage, the different kinds, press, print media, and the television broadcasts and all of that. And Network 7 Australia actually beat out CNN and CNBC, who had a team more than 3 times the size of ours,
Wow.
um, who been awarded best television coverage. So we won what's called a Golden Rings Award given by the IOC. So technically, I guess I can say I've won Team Gold at the
That
Olympics.
is
I mean, I just couldn't read about it. But if I hadn't followed my heart and taken the opportunity to go and work in China, despite the fact that I'm a second language learner and, all of that, and had to work through my own, you know, not just ego, but that sort of desire of getting things right. And, am I saying this right? Is this,
Yeah.
is this good
Yes.
enough? And just focus on communication and connecting with people, then everything shifted for me. And if I hadn't had those personal
I
breakthroughs
think
along
maybe
the
we
way as
lost
well,
Sally for a little bit, but
it
I
would have
pray
made
she'll be right back.
a bigger impact.
Sally, are you there?
So I see that I'm buffering here.
I think we're having a little technical difficulty at the moment. So exciting to hear from Sally Lean. So let's try to see if we can get her back. Oh, so Sally is off for right now. We will be back in just a moment. Let her reconnect. Amazing. Sally Lean, award-winning international educator, teen success coach, and founder of Lean In to Succeed. Like I read before, 2 decades of global experience across Australia, China, Singapore, and Thailand. Amazing. I love her story and I can't wait till she is back. Let's see. I know that a little bit ago she did have some connection problems. She had a little bit of a connection issue. Let's see if she can get back. And she lost her internet. She's not at home right now. She is house sitting. So it's always difficult when we are not in our environment and we have to make do, but we will get this done. It's all right. We deal with technical issues all the time, but we will continue rolling as we wait for Sally to get back on. Have you ever had a dream that you thought was not going just the way that you needed it to go, and God just showed you that, you know what? It doesn't matter. It is actually in his hands, right? It is completely and totally in his hands. And when he showed you the way that it actually is, it is so much better, so much better. Okay, let's see. So she's saying that she can't rejoin. So let me send her another invite. Let me see if I can do this. Da, 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 da. I'm sharing with her another guest link so she can join with Yes, again. Somehow she said she can't rejoin. Hopefully she can get back into the studio. It's just the way it is sometimes. The tech. Sorry, that was me trying to flip over to Facebook so I can communicate with her. There she is. There she is. All right, let's see. Hi
My gosh, I'm so sorry. The internet
there.
has been crazy this morning, just crashing out.
It's okay.
These
We
things are
are
sent to
back.
China.
Yeah, we are back. Let me fix this. Tell me again, what did we have at the bottom? Speaker, educator, author?
Yes.
All right. I
Thank
thought I
you.
remembered correctly. See, we can do this. This is real, guys. This is live, and it is what we do.
It's happening.
I love your story, so we are willing to wait because we need to
Yeah.
do this. But yes, like I said, I've been to China, and just to be on the outside of the bird nest, you can say that you won gold inside of the bird nest in the Olympics.
From the outside, I guess. But yeah, amazing.
What was that?
I guess technically it was from the outside of the stadium that we
From
won.
the outside,
From the IBC, the International Broadcast Center.
from the broadcast center. That's still amazing. That is such an amazing thing. All right. So every time I have a guest on, what we do is we go through the Aloha Always framework, which is the framework that God gave me when I asked Him to help me write my book, because I did not want to write my story through domestic violence and have to just go through the whole mess of things and rehash everything all over again. So I said, Lord, you need to help me. I don't want to have to rehash this. And He said, I gave you everything in Aloha. And that is the affirmations and actions, leadership and love, overcoming obstacles, health and healing, and acute awareness. But as I spoke with people from all over the world now, from Saudi Arabia to Egypt to Australia to like all over the world, I found that everyone walks in Aloha in their very own ways. And so I just want to go over the questions, and I know I sent them to you. So we'll go over that and we will just walk in Aloha together as we can go through. I hear a puppy.
Yeah, sorry. That's my
Here,
friend's dog. I'm house sitting right now.
I miss my dog, so every time I hear a dog, I'm like, "Oh, puppy." So, yes, aloha always. So, New Year's, brand new year, deliver your dreams questions. Okay. So, in the affirmations and actions, let's start right there. For someone starting 2026 with big dreams but lingering doubt, what is the first belief that they must affirm and the first action they must take? What do you think it is?
Great question. So I think the first belief that we have to affirm is a belief in ourselves and trusting that if we really stand in, even if we still have, and it's natural, right? We always have everybody, no matter how successful, how wealthy they are, everybody has some level of self-doubt that's always present. But we need to dare, first of all, I say dare to dream, right? Dare to believe that maybe what if it could be possible? Maybe in this moment right now, I don't know how to get from here to there. But if I dare to dream it, first of all, dream, and I dare to share it. So find some trusted people that you can share. Is there an echo, Michelle?
I think it's because the microphone is rubbing on your shirt.
Okay. Is that better
There's
now?
a little bit of sound. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know all these tech things, right? Yes, if we dare to dream and then declare it and share it with people who we trust and we love, but who will hold us accountable to make sure that we don't just let it go and fade away. And then we can start the new year, I think, by, we talk about building backwards, right? So standing out there in that dream, make some smaller goals, because every small goal adds up to being a stepping stone on the journey toward those bigger dreams or bigger goals that we have. So start with bite-sized pieces. So dream it, declare it, and share it with trusted people who will hold you accountable, who will check in and say, hey, how's it going? And trust the process. Trust that you're going to meet people along the way. If you are willing to share and you're willing to ask people for advice along the way, that people will come, show up in your world and be magnetized, and manifested into your journey to help you along the way. Yeah. So I think start there, definitely.
That is so good. Like I always say, it's those small little changes, because it's how they say, in order to change your direction, you need to change. You can't keep running on that same path, like that same groove. You know how you're like stuck in those grooves? If you want to get out of that, you need to make those small incremental changes. And it's those small little steps that's going to get you to where you want to go. So,
Absolutely.
how do daily actions, not just annual goals, turn dreams into lived directions?
It is the small things that we do on a daily basis, like building new habits or standing in a new level of yourself where you're daring to take, and I call it everyday courage, small actions of courage on a daily basis, in the direction of your dreams. Now, it's never a straight line. It often goes its way, side to side. We go uphill and down dale, and it's all of that, the journey, right? However, each low point means, if we hit so-called rock bottom along the way, if we leave the rocks out of our pockets in the bottom of the of the hole, the next time we trip in and fall down the next hole, it won't be so low because we've got the lessons from the last experience. So
So,
learn the daily lessons, take the daily action, no matter how small it is, even if it is just to create a vision board and look at it and say your dream out loud to yourself every day. Something simple as that to keep it present in your mind and in your being for yourself.
yeah, so good. I like that vision board, things like that, where something there to be your daily reminder. I actually, because everybody's on Facebook all the time, even if they don't want to admit it. No, I'm just kidding. But, the cover page, that one part of the top of your Facebook page, I changed that on mine so
Mhm.
that it can be my reminder. So every time I'm on Facebook or whatever, there is that reminder there.
Mm.
So yeah, that is one thing that someone can do so that it is like a daily, right? You want to be there and have it daily. I actually have a vision board actually on the back of my door that I go out of every day, so that when I walk out, it's right there. I have to see it before I leave for the day. Those things. So,
Another one that I saw a number of years ago and I started doing is to create a password that has a reminder, some sort of reminder about your goal in there, or
yeah.
your current thing, that the current step that you're working on, or the bigger step if you're okay with that. For me, I love to have the bigger vision there. It's sort of like when you work in an organization, you have this big vision and mission, and then everyone has
Mhm.
their targets to contribute along the way, right? So sometimes the big dream, the big vision, or the big vision can be a little daunting. So sometimes it's easier to start with the current goal, the thing, the first stepping stone, and then the next stepping stone. So yeah, change your passwords too. So when you're signing into
Yeah.
things, you're reminding yourself every time.
That's a good one. I love that.
Yeah. And also the save screen on your phone. Put something there, with a statement or something. And for me, I think one of the most powerful things that I've learned is that it's not just about, when you do have a big dream or a big mission, it's daunting, right? And who you are in this moment, maybe you don't know how you're going to get yourself there. So I like to start with those manageable steps and focus on this step and then the next step and then the next step after that. And it makes it more manageable, but also not just the doing. Don't just create a do list. We're human beings, not human doings. So we need to think about who we're being along the way. And whoever I have been up until right now in this moment chatting with you has got me here, but that version of me will not get me to those bigger goals out there in my future. So I need to think about the being, and creating new habits and new habits of being as well, being intentional about the choices that you make in each moment. We can't control what happens to us and around us, but we can control our reactions to it. Who we are when we react, who we are when we're managing the things and sometimes terrible things that happen in life
Yeah.
that you and I have both experienced in different ways. So yes, there's always something, but that's where our personal control and personal power comes in as well, by who we're being in each moment. and each challenge along the way. Standing,
That's so important.
yeah, reminded, all the big guys, Tony Robbins and all, they all talk about, future, like creating from the future. So who do you have to be in order to be the CEO of that big company that you want to create, or that, the CEO of your own dreams, right? Who do you have to be that person? And it means giving up the smallness. It means giving up, I talk about not just leaning in. Sheryl Sandberg made that saying famous, but it's my name, so I claimed it back. Lean in, but you also have to lean out. Where do you need to lean out along the way? So creating new habits, choosing not to sit and watch hours of television or binge watch something on the weekend, and actually use your time and your energy in another way, more constructively.
Yeah, that is one thing that I'm actually doing for the new year, is to not bring the habits that I had in the past, right? Last year, like it was so long ago.
Yeah.
Last year, not bringing those habits, which is I did spend so much time working on my computer and everything like that, that I forgot to get up and take time to exercise or move or whatever. And I realized that I had more hours in front of my laptop, and I can't do that. It's not healthy on your body. It's not healthy on your eyes. It's not healthy, period, to just be sitting at your laptop for hours on end. So what I did was I actually now schedule it in to move, right? You only have 25 minutes and then you get up. So things like that, you have to schedule it in so
Yes.
that it is important. And it is important that we are not human doings, we are human beings. So we need to be and not
Yes.
just continue to do. So that is so
Yes.
good. So very good. And in the leadership and love part, you teach that dreams give direction. I love that. How does honoring your dreams help us lead ourselves and others with more love and intention?
When we are in the realm of human doings, some mornings it feels hard to get out of bed, right? It's like, ugh, got to go to work. Ugh, I've got to go to school if you're still a student. Ugh, I've got to go to lectures, whatever. Oh, I've got to go and I've got to do my taxes. Oh, there's always something that we don't necessarily want to look forward to. But if we hold that bigger dream, our bigger goals and mission out in front of ourselves, that's the reason that you get out of bed. Not for the thing you've got to do in this moment, but because you're on the way to where, to where you want to be, and the contribution that you want to make in the world, and I think in terms of leadership, that's probably the biggest reminder is, it's about, so no matter what our dream is, even if, some young people say, oh, I want to make $1 million. That's great. What are you going to do with that $1 million in the world? That will make a difference. And maybe it's just to have a better life for their own family. That's okay. But it can't just be about ourselves alone. We don't live in a silo. Sometimes we work like that, but we don't live in a silo. And so thinking about who we are in the world and how we can make that bigger difference. And so every small thing, there's now I've forgotten, I think an admiral from the Navy who is there's a gold cast little film documentary of him speaking and saying, get up in the morning and make your bed, in terms of being in the services and things like that. Get up in the morning and make your bed, because even if you have a really crappy day, at least when you come home, you have a made bed waiting for you, and it's the first small thing to do in the day to remind yourself about who you're being. And ever since I saw that, I don't know, years ago, I actually do. I get up in the morning and I make my bed. It's not always perfect, but it's pulled up. The cushions, the pillows are there, and it's there, and so when I come home, and I notice it, taking time to clean up my own space and keep it impeccable, and just, all those things that we can do to raise our own standards, keep raising our own standards for ourselves, not because of anyone else, but because I say so, or we say so ourselves.
Yeah, that is so good. I have to remember that because, like I said, we all get busy, but I have to only speak for myself. I'm in and out. And so there's a lot of times I leave a mess because it's like I'm busy and I do that and then I'm off doing something else. But yeah, it doesn't feel good to come back to that.
Mhm.
You have a busy day and you're at work and you come back and you're like, now I got to deal with the mess.
Yes.
but you already had a long, busy day. So, yeah, it is so much better. Like you said, just get it done. And so I am a huge investor in my own education because I have to train myself up all the
Likewise.
time. So I'm a huge investor in my own self-education. And that is one thing that I'm investing in right now is to learn and actually learn how to be more organized and learn what it is in my own self, my own psychology, why I'm like okay to be so busy and not take care of the things that I need to take care of. Those kind of things. Because people don't look at it like that. Like there has to be a reason why you're okay with this mess,
Hmm.
right? And we need to be able to look at ourselves honestly. And sometimes people are just not willing to look into our own selves, but that's what we do. We need to do that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, leadership and love. What role do parents, mentors, and educators play in protecting and nurturing a young person's dreams?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you. I think it's really important that as the adults in the room, whether you are a parent, of a child, particularly a teenager, in that critical time where they're starting to want to find their own independence in the world, but they're not adults yet. They still haven't got their prefrontal cortex, so they're not always making the best decisions for themselves. And sometimes they're a little bit like go with the wind, right? So one week it's this and the next week it's something else, and parents can be very dismissive of things as kids often, and teachers too, right? Very impactful in the things that teachers say to kids. I know I've got memories of being impacted along the way of my own experiences with teachers. Fortunately for me, I have had a number of great teachers along the way, in school and in university and also in life. So mentors in life. So I guess the good has outweighed the negatives for me. But it's so impactful. So instead of poo-pooing when a child or a young person, teenager in particular, sort of says, look, I have this idea, I want to become an artist, or, I want to become a musician. And instead of going, don't be silly, you'll never make money doing that. We can't say that anymore because it's a very different world than when we as parents and educators were younger. So anything really is possible. And my best advice is to explore it with them. Ask some curious questions like, wow, what would that be like? How do you think, you might be able to make money doing that? Have you investigated ways that artists go about, or musicians go about getting themselves known? Do you know, how they use social media and, what's all, have you done any research into that? Ask the curious questions instead of shutting it down. And you very quickly find with teenagers whether it's something that they really are committed into or it's just the latest fad, right? And if it's just the latest fad, yeah, sure, it will pass, right? This too shall pass. However, if it is something that's dear to them, it will sustain throughout other fads that may come and go. There'll be a sort of common denominator throughout it all where they come back to. So encourage that. And instead of allowing our judgment to pop up, which does naturally, somebody says something and we go, oh, don't be silly. Instead of doing that, sort of that reactive type thing, just take a breath, especially for parents when the kid says something and you think, here we go. Take a breath, pause, and then bring curiosity to responding to them and ask them questions and have them stop and think and maybe explore some more and explore together. Take that opportunity to sit down and research on the internet and find some examples of people who've been successful at it and all that sort of. And I don't mean, the Taylor Swifts of the world. I mean more like local people. Somebody maybe, if they're interested in music, go and find a musician they can speak to. Make some real connections, because nowadays we have devices and devices often get in between where we are and where we think we want to be, because it seems like, influences all over the internet and all of these influences that young people have now. It's not always realistic, or they don't have a realistic view of what's truly possible. You can't just take your laptop and go sit in a cafe in Bali beside a rice paddy and think you're going to make $1 million by the time you're 30 without some actual idea and something stable underneath it, right?
Yeah. My granddaughter, she was really young and it was the cutest thing because I was like asking her like, who are you? What do you want to do? You know, those kind of things, like just those questions. And she's like, I'm an artist, and she just came out with it. Like she was so clear on the fact that I'm an artist. And I'm like, you are an artist, and from that moment, it was who she was. It didn't matter how old, like she's older now and she's always had a sketchbook in hand and drawing pencils, and I always buy things for her that is in that artist realm, like anything to do with art. And I wanted to try for myself. I don't even know what it's called, but like drawing and on a digital pad.
Mm.
I don't even know what it's called. But anyway, I was having a hard time because it doesn't feel the same like I paint. I actually do acrylic painting and I cannot draw with a pencil, and that's her thing, right? She loves to sketch with a pencil. She one time told me I got her all these color pencils and things and pens, and she's like, Grandma, I don't do color. I'm like, okay. But, like you said, if it's their thing, you don't poo poo on whatever they're doing, and you don't go, I think you should be doing color. You're like, great. How many pencils can I get you that doesn't have color, right? You know what I mean? Let me get you this whole pencil set. Here you go. But she just was so sure she doesn't do color, she just do pencil. And I was like, anything else you need? And so in that, she has gone through so much. And when I showed her the iPad and I'm like, oh my gosh, grandma's been trying to do this and I don't even know how. She picked it up and she's over there drawing and like using her little fingers to zoom in and draw and flip it around. And she is all over that thing like as if she had it forever.
Yeah,
And
she's a
I
digital
literally just
native,
placed
right?
it. Yes, yeah. I was so amazed, and I'm watching her going, "My gosh, I think I need to get you an iPad."
I always say, if you're
It
having
was
any trouble with tech, ask the
crazy.
nearest 8-year-old. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, but, just the fact that when she first said it, like, she was so sure, "I'm an artist." I
Mhm.
said, "You know what? That you are." Because it lives inside of you, and I think it's when we get older, when people start telling us, "No, you're not. That's not what you do. You're never gonna make money on that." You need to be doing this. That's when all of those things start
Yeah,
falling away,
exactly.
right?
And I remember one of my education heroes, the late Sir Ken Robinson, in his first and I think most viewed TED Talk from like 2006. He talks about
Mhm.
how schools kill creativity, and the traditional education system kind of educates young children out of their creativity, and they have to become very left-brained and still and non-creative, right? That's not entirely true, broad statement, but that was his kind of proposition in this TED talk. And then he shared a story about a little girl who was in class, drawing quietly one day, unusually quietly, and the teacher said, "Well, what are you drawing?" And she said, "I'm drawing God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And she said, "Well, the little girl says they will in a minute." Right? I love that. I love that creativity that little people have. And
Yeah.
if only we can keep that encouraged and supported and nurtured, as they grow,
Yeah.
then it may or may not. It might be something that they will, move away from, as they grow and age. But it doesn't matter. At least they've had that capacity to know themselves creatively and being supported and encouraged in it. Yeah,
Mhm. Yep,
build
so
that
good.
foundation of confidence.
Yeah. So in overcoming obstacles, the O in Aloha, one day thinking keeps people waiting. What mindset shifts help people move from dreaming into doing?
Yes, great question. So, overcoming obstacles. I think we are our own biggest obstacles. So,
Yeah.
the research says that men have the little voice in their head, and sometimes women have a whole group. There's like a committee in there, really going at it. And we really need to share our dreams. If depending on who it is, then if you're the boss of an organization, it's your vision that leads the whole organization, right? So right down to being a young teenager, if you have the courage to share with people who you can trust to support you in that, and not try to pull you out of it, then that's the biggest gift we can give the people around us, is our listening and our support and our encouragement. So in terms of overcoming obstacles, I think that's the biggest one, is to share it instead of one day, someday. Because if you just write down it's just a wish. If you write down your dream and there's no sort of timing on it, it's one of the reasons why we talk about SMART goals. I know everybody at work who works professionally and even at schools, the students create SMART goals, and that's great. However, it is still important that we do that. We share it, we say it, we name a time, and it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, and then what's the next stepping stone in the next month, in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year? Like, what are those smaller stepping stones along the way? So name it, share it, and give a time in your head for yourself. Now that might shift. It might take you longer, but I know from my own experience, you never give up on your dreams. They'll wait. They'll wait for you as long as you leave them there and don't, I guess, to switch off the light or blow out the candle on that. But if you just keep the candle there and you're just wishing and hoping, one day, please, dear God, help me make my dreams come true. That there's a saying that God helps those who help themselves, right? So we need to be actively taking action. Yes, obstacles will happen, right? We will get tripped up. And I remember a very dear friend sharing to me many years ago that one of the biggest ingredients for success is failure. And I was very puzzled. Younger Sally was very puzzled. And I thought, what do you mean? And he said, because we learn more from our failures than our successes. So when we do trip and stumble and fall, which we will do along the way because we're all human, it's to learn the lessons. And his message, even from the early 70s, was to fail forward. So yeah, learn the lesson so you're not just repeating the same mistakes. Learn the lesson, fail forward, so you can keep moving and learn along the way.
Yeah, that is so good. That's so good. What obstacles most often blocks people from delivering their dreams, and how can they overcome it at the start of the new year?
Yeah, I think we talked about that, chunking it down to smaller, manageable bites. Like how do you need to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So what's the next bite and the next bite? And there'll be some things that you need to bite and chew on that are tasty, and there'll be some that are not so tasty, but we need to be taking the next bite along the way. And the more people that we build in our network around us, and friends, but also professionally over the years who support us, then the more we can keep winning.
That's so good. Yeah, because when it looks so big, like you were saying, daunting, then you kind of move away from it because it's just too big. It's too hard to handle, So that is good.
And
One
what
bite at a
happens
time.
sometimes the wind blows and our torch, I use the Olympic reference, right? So if we think about our big dream as our own Olympic torch, as something that we're moving toward, like that lights the way for us. Two things that I love the torch metaphor, because not only does the torch light our own way, but we can hold our torch to light the way for others as well. Mm-hmm. If and when the wind blows and our own torch flickers or maybe even goes out, guess what? Somebody else can relight our torch with theirs, and their torch is not diminished, and nor is ours, by sharing our torch with people along the way. So sharing our light and our dreams and courage along the way as well makes the journey even more worthwhile.
Yeah, that is why it's so important to stay within community and, with people. So the A in Aloha is health and healing. So many people carry disappointments from past years. How do you help people heal from deferred dreams without giving up on the future?
There's many ways, of seeking support and help for active, I guess I like to call it active healing, not so much passive and hoping that one day, someday I'll feel better. Right. One of the biggest things that's helped me is something that's available from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is timeline therapy. It helps you to go back, into your younger years and see some of the things that were very impactful and be able to release the negative emotions that we carry around that, around those memories of things that happen, because things are always happening to us every day, right? Small and large. And the event itself is in the past. However, we carry with us those decisions that we made about ourselves in that moment when things happened, and the meaning we made about ourselves, and that impacts us in the now and into the future if we're not completing that, for ourselves, and sort of taking out the negative emotion that we carry otherwise. So yeah, it's really important work as well.
Yeah, that sounds so good. I know that there's like, especially like for me, the domestic violence and stuff. I could have carried it with me, you know what I mean? But I love it when people hear me speak and I've heard people so many times tell me it's amazing on how you speak about it. It's like you're speaking from a healed place and we don't hear the pain anymore. And I like that. I like to tell people that I want to tell you my story because I know that it'll help people who are still in it, but there's healing in that. You walk through that. So, what does emotional and mental health have to do with actually following through on your dreams?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's about being active in all of it, being responsible for noticing how you're feeling, where you're at. If, how's your body doing? I know over the years I've, not treated my body as well as I could have, perhaps in hindsight. Hindsight's always a wonderful thing. And eventually you're going to run out of energy if you're burning your candle or your torch. We're going with that metaphor at both ends, right? Eventually it does run down. So we do need to really take care of ourselves along the way and find those ways. If sitting still in meditation for 10 minutes or 20 minutes every day is not your thing, it might be that you go for a quiet walk, in an area that's peaceful for you, whether it's in the, in Australia, we say the bush or in the woods or, whatever, your local park, whatever is available to you that works for you. And I think that's one thing that I've had to learn is figuring out what works for me and having the courage to say, yeah, thank you for sharing that. That doesn't resonate. I'm doing this and this, and I can see that, and you learn from people along the way, but how to adjust things and level yourself up. But yeah, find your own ways that work, but be
Yeah,
active in that, not passive, waiting for something to show up, right? You have to go looking.
right, right. Like you said, you don't want to just be like waiting. You do truly have to be moving in that.
Yes.
Because for me, I was stuck in that silence of domestic violence. And until I started actually moving through that healing, there was no change. There is absolutely no change when you're just staying still, right? It's in that momentum, it's in that movement that we actually have that change. And I think, like it says, the emotional and mental health that you have with actually following through on your dreams is that when you don't, there's a feeling of loss, a feeling of lack. And then when you are actually following your dreams and then you actually see them come to pass, you're like, and there's so much healing in that. Because I know for myself, when I wrote my book and when I won the award for it, I knew that all of the pain that I went through had some kind of significant meaning. All of the things that you went through, you're like, it wasn't for nothing. And God has a purpose and a plan for your life, not to put you through pain, not to put you through the things that hurt, but He doesn't waste the pain that you've been through,
Yeah,
and
100%
those
agree.
things.
Dr.
Yeah.
DeMartini, John DeMartini talks about that as well.
Yeah.
It's his version of finding the silver lining, but being able to really dig down through those even now most painful moments in life and find, even if it is to understand that you wouldn't be so courageous now had you not gone through what you've gone through, right? I too have a background with, that includes domestic violence along the way, childhood trauma, and it's hard work sometimes letting go of some of the stuff around that and also being responsible for what's your own thing to own inside of all of that. That can be very uncomfortable. But then
Yeah.
when you do the work and actively move yourself through the spaces to heal, speaking from the scar, not from the wound. When it's a raw wound, it's kind of messy and it's hard to speak from in a way that's not stuck in it, it's still
Huh.
raw. But when you can speak from the scar and from the lessons, it's so, so powerful to be able to share and help people along the way as well.
Yes. And in that, you give people hope.
Indeed.
That's what they see in you. You give them hope. So the A in acute awareness in Aloha is acute awareness. how can our listeners recognize whether a dream is truly directing them or distracting them?
Because we do often suffer from that, shiny object syndrome, right? It's like, oh, let me go over here and
Yeah.
try this thing. And oh, maybe this will be fun. I can do that. And it's really about becoming a powerful editor of your own life, I think, and having the courage to sit still and think, and ask questions of your trusted people as well. People who are further ahead of you, not the people around you who maybe haven't done that thing before, or find the people who have done those things or something similar, right? Who have had success, and ask them as well for advice. Build those mentors around you you can go to and ask the deeper questions. Yeah. So, how do they know if it's a distraction? It will be something, and not to say that we can't enjoy some of the distractions along the way. There's some fun, shiny things that come up right along the way. Absolutely. But it needs to, I think, looking for alignment. Does this align with the direction that I'm taking, where I want to go with in life, with my dream, toward my dreams? Looking for the alignment piece. You know quickly if it's a side detour or if it is actually in alignment. And if you're not sure, just ask somebody and get, or maybe 2 or 3 people and get their feedback about what they hear. I know for me, when I'm sharing with, and I'm seeking that advice, sometimes even just in sharing with a trusted friend, I can hear it in my own voice, whether I'm worried. If I'm still concerned and worried about it, then maybe that's not the thing. But if I'm really inspired and I feel lit up and I sound lit up when I'm talking about this possibility or something along the way, then, all it is to look and see how to make that next shiny thing, aligned with. And so it's not a detour, it's actually in alignment with your path. Yeah. I think that's my best advice.
Like, I like that you use the word alignment. Alignment is my word of the year for 2026. And I was speaking to someone else and she was saying, "Oh my gosh, that's my word too." And she said that it's funny how it's, she heard it from someone else. It was their word too. And so she said, "I'm seeing that a lot where alignment is a theme for 2026."
Mm,
And I'm like, you know, that that is a good thing because I think uh I had Dr. Ben Clinton on a podcast before, and we were talking about how last year was hard for a lot of people, and especially here in the US where there was like a government shutdown that was the
mm,
longest in history. It was the longest in history. It was like 50 somewhat days. And people when I was speaking to other people in other countries, they're like, how does your government do that? How do they just shut down? And my husband and I both work for the federal government. And so we both were like not getting paid for that long.
can't even imagine.
And, they're like, how do you do that? And the one thing that I was saying was that when we decided to serve the federal government, we took the oath, we decided to wear the uniform, and we said that we would serve. And it was that decision that kept us there during the time of the shutdown also. We knew that if everyone walked out, what kind of chaos it would cause. And so we're like, so those kind of decisions, like, I need to continue even though. And I think that is the same principles when you are looking at your own dreams, when you're looking at your own, like, are you just going to walk out or are you going to say, this is what I wanted to do. This is my dream. This is something that I wanted all this time. I'm going to walk it through no matter how it is for now. Like you said, some of it may be tasty, some of it may not be so tasty, but necessary, right? Because sometimes those things that's not so tasty is actually necessary, like vitamins, right? Like when you take your vitamins, those things are not so tasty, but it is necessary. And
Yeah.
so it
Medicine.
may be hard.
Chinese medicine never
Yes,
tastes any
yes,
good, but it's really good for you.
there you go. Sometimes things don't taste so good, but it is actually very good for you. And
Yeah.
it like closing up on the health and healing part, right?
Yeah.
It
Oh,
is
if
true. that health and healing. It is through that where we have to decide what is best for us. Sometimes it is not easiest. It is not the, like we think like it is so hard, but it is better. You don't want to exercise, but it is better. You don't want to take that 30 minutes to go take a walk. You're like, oh, but I'm so busy. I should be doing this. No, 30 minutes of taking that time to exercise is so much better for your health. That is why it is important for you to take that time. So,
Self-investment, right? Investing in
yes,
yourself.
yeah. And in the long run, that is the most important part. It's like if you don't take that time, there's a pastor, Andrew Moment, and he has a book called Leadership. You're going to hear a lot of noise. Sorry about that. But this is the garage, and my husband is going to go to the gym. So, anyway,
No
it
problem.
is what it
Really, just
and
pretend we don't hear any.
yeah, we do that all the time. It's real life. It's live. But he was, talking about being leader fit. If you are not fit to answer the call of God, then how can you answer the call? So you need to be able to take care of yourself. You need to be healthy. You need to be able to say, should I be eating this cookie? Should I be, you know, indulging? Or should I be skipping out on all this workout? And those are the things that is hard, but it is
Yes.
necessary. So, like you said, Chinese medicine doesn't taste good, but it is better for you. Yes. Health
Yeah.
and healing.
If you're
Important.
standing in, like you said, your word is alignment, standing in alignment. What is it that I really need right now? And sometimes if you're genuinely tired or if you're a bit run down, it might be rest that is needed. And other times
Yes.
it might be you giving yourself a mental kick, to get up and, put your trainers on and go for that walk or go for that run.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then my word that came up for me, Michelle, was sitting actually, and it was in a workshop with a coaching friend of mine, and she asked us just to take a few minutes of quiet to think about, and what downloaded for me was the word deserving. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting, right? About that really foundational piece around self-worth and being worthy and, being open to receiving as well as giving and doing and, all the things. So I thought, wow, deserving. And then I was sitting with this word, deserving. And then I realized, I thought, oh, D is a negative prefix, right? The D is actually has a negative connotation. So and then I thought, oh, and it made me pause for a moment. And I realized if I take the D out, out of deserving, it becomes just serving. And that's a whole other realm, right? So, and it is, as you just said, if you want to be serving others, we also need to be prioritizing serving and really taking care of ourselves.
Yes, so good. The last A in Aloha is acute awareness. How can our listeners recognize whether oh wait, no, I went backwards. I already read that.
Yeah.
So what signs show someone that they're already walking in alignment with their dream, even if the outcome isn't visible? This is so good because how many times people think that it's just going to be right? You just think it's going to be like that.
Yes.
I am walking in my dream and it's just going to be like that. And why can't I see it yet? So what signs show someone that they're already walking in alignment with their dreams, even if the outcome isn't visible yet?
Yes. I think, first of all, that we are being called to grow. It's not coming easy, even in this world of instant gratification that we all live in, right? IG is not just about Instagram. It's also about instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
The Insta world, right? Everything's got to be instant. I want it now. I want what I want and I want it now. But something that is worthwhile will call us forward. It calls us into a new level of being. It calls us into a new level of doing. And if you're being called, yes, some days you feel tired and you might be grumpy, but you're still through that. The through thread is pulling you forward. And if it's not doing that for you, then it's not the bigger dream. You need to keep looking for what is beyond what you're kind of stuck in or working inside of right now, and look for that bigger thing that will cause that deep inspiration. Because to inspire is to breathe life into, or to put breath into something. So it must inspire you. So if you're not feeling inspired to keep going and to keep aiming toward that dream, then you need to look again.
That's a good one. I never looked at it like that. If it's because like you said, it's to breathe into. And aloha is actually that. It's alo, which is the closeness. Alo is, and then ha is breath. So if inspires to breathe into it, and if it's not inspiring you, because you figure if you can't breathe in it every day, why
Yes.
continue it, right?
Exactly.
And so that can't be what your dream is because you're not going to be breathing into it every day.
Yes.
So that is a good way to look at it. Like, so
Yeah, and there might be
excellent,
some big goals that
excellent
you
way.
have in your career that you want to achieve, and that's more power to people who want to, who know that they're building towards something there. But that might not be the whole thing for yourself personally. That might be part of it, is building the career. For what? What happens when that career ends or shifts or something happens or,
Right.
who are you inside of that particular part of, your journey? I know from losing my own identity from, when I ended my particular, year of that career, I thought, wow, now who am I? Without, being able to say, hi, I'm Sally Lean from, XXX school or institution, who am I? Right. So, yeah. So
Hey.
key messaging, I talked about where we lean in, where we need to lean in, where we need to lean out from but the really critical part is who we can lean on along the way. So intentionally building our community around us with people who will support us and hold us up. You talk about being inspired and the ha in aloha. People who hold us up when our wings temporarily get tired or forget how to fly. We want to have those people who'll circle in under us and hold us up.
That's so good. And sometimes people may not have anyone near them. They may feel like, oh, I'm so alone, or, like you're saying, to have someone and you can talk to. And they're like, then I don't have anyone. I don't have anyone near me. I'm always alone. But that's not true because you can find, if you truly want to find someone, you always can find someone, especially with technology now, with reaching out to people online. You still can reach out, even if you don't have people near you in your physicality, right?
Yes.
Right here next to you, you still can reach out. And I tell people that it's the same thing. I was, like when I had my hip replacement, I was stuck. I felt like I was so stuck in like partial laying position. And I was like, but I had my computer, right? And so I would talk to people online and I would be like, thank you so much. You feel less alone, right? You really
Yes.
do feel less alone because you still can share, you still can communicate, and don't to ask for help. Don't hesitate to reach out even if it is online, and I believe that is important because community, we were not made to be alone. We were truly not made to be alone. And you mentioned community a lot and reaching out and have somebody to tell your dreams to. That is so key.
Yes.
Because one thing that I knew was something that the abuser wanted was isolation. He wanted to isolate me, right? And that was the one thing that was consistent. He didn't want me around my family. He didn't want me around friends. And in that isolation was the reason why he could control what I was doing or what he wanted to do anyway.
So
It was the control, right? Yeah. And it's in that isolation. But if you think about it, if you're isolating yourself, who else is controlling you? Your own thoughts, right?
that's
You
right.
isolate
Yeah, and
yourself.
in the troubled times, if we're stuck in our head, there's a
Yes.
saying: if you're in your head,
Yeah.
you're dead.
Yes,
But
exactly.
and I heard someone say, if you're in your head, you're dead. If you're in your heart, you're smart. So, instead of sitting and thinking I have nothing positive to share, oh, woe is me, going around and around in circles, just share something, speak out, ask for help. And, you've got to be your own champion as well. sometimes. It's
Uh-huh.
you got to tell that voice in your head. I think of it like the two old guys in the Muppets. If you ever saw the Muppet Show, up on the balcony, like,
Yeah.
criticizing everything and commenting on stuff. We do that to ourselves. We're always commenting on things to ourselves, and you've got to get out of that, because otherwise you're going to keep circling. So in order to move forward, you have to invite that voice in your head to shut up and just
Exactly.
be quiet, get over there and move forward anyway.
Yes, that's one thing that we want to do is we want to shut up the things of the past and move forward
For
because
sure.
this is a brand new year. And that's one
Indeed.
thing that we want to do is that we want to follow our dreams. We want to deliver those dreams in 2026.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all of
Thank you,
this. And
Michelle.
I know that we had our tech issues and that's why we went a little
So sorry.
longer, but that's okay. We are good. This was beautiful. Thank you so much. So, this is our legacy question. As we step into 2026, what does it mean to deliver a dream instead of just setting a goal? What would you say to someone who feels that it's too late? Because I know I am 57 years old. I know it's not too late and I still dream. So, what would you say?
I remember years ago sitting in a 3-day program, personal breakthrough program, and there was a woman in the room who was sitting on one side, and they had put kind of like a table behind her and or in front of her, and a cushion in her chair behind a pillow. And I sort of started out being very critical and thinking, well, why are you here if you're not well enough? If you need so much support and all this sort of thing. Very negative, right? Judgments happening. And toward the end of that program, I think maybe on the third day, she stood up very slowly and, obviously with some labor involved in standing up. And she took the microphone and she shared and she said, I have cancer, and not just a little bit of cancer. It's all through my body. It's through my bones. And I don't have long to live. And I've heard everybody sharing about that, what they're creating for themselves in their lives. And I've been sitting here thinking, I don't have much time to be here. So what am I going to do? And she said, I realize that I can share with other people who are going through what I'm going through and maybe make it a little bit easier for them. And I thought, yeah, so what excuse does anybody of the rest of us have about not stepping into and really powerfully empowering ourselves in going after our dreams? Because if we are together, if we unite with other people who have, maybe not the same dream as you, but similar intentions, and really making a difference along the way in achieving your dreams in the world, making, the dream that does make a difference for the people around you, no matter if it's just your family or if it's at the level of your community or at the level of society or at the level of global impact. It really takes something to stand there and go after it. And that's been my motivation in founding a new movement. And so it's called, I'm so excited to share, but it's called the Million Dreams Movement. And yes, I've trademarked the name and done all the things. And I now have a website. So if you don't have anyone specific that you want to share with, or you're not quite ready to tell people, go on to, and it's milliondreamsmovement.org. Go on there and there's a form you can fill in and share your dream. And then there'll be regular updates around, just ideas and tips about how to keep your dream alive and, how to deal with your humanity along the way that will kind of try to knock you off your path. Our own humanity is, and then other people's humanity gets in the way sometimes. So managing that so that we still keep moving forward and knowing that I'm here climbing my mountain, which is exhausting sometimes, and sometimes you slide back down and sometimes you get stuck somewhere on a plateau. But if I'm climbing my mountain and I can look across and I can see you, Michelle, on your mountain just over there where you are, climbing your mountain as well, dealing with the stuff that's coming at you, same thing, sliding down the mountain, all the things that happen, right? And everybody else around us is on their mountain and we're all climbing. And sometimes we're resting, but then we keep climbing. So it's important that we know that we're all on our own mountain. So keep going, share it, and come share on this. It's just a simple kind of landing page, but share it and then get regular updates to remind you to keep your big dreams alive.
That is so good. A Million Dreams Movement,
.org.
.org. For you to bring up the woman who had cancer and what excuses do we have, right? And I was so lucky to meet Where is it? I don't have it near me. Oh, here it is. I know I had it near me. Nick, I can never say his name, but
Oh,
Life
yes,
Without Limbs,
Kijiji.
right? Yes.
Yes.
And so I was blessed to meet him and to give him a hug.
Wow.
But hearing him, right, even like that, a life without limbs, and he's such a powerful speaker. And what excuses do we have? We can live our dreams. We can do what we can do if we just continue to walk in our dreams, walk in aloha, live the dream that God gave us and live our God potential life. So good. Thank you so much for reminding us that our dreams are not just wishful thinking, and that they are actually directional invitations. The MillionDreamsMovement.org. I am going to
Yeah.
go on there. I'm going to put my dream in there just so that I can
Yeah.
have somebody to keep me accountable into my dreams, because everyone knows that we all have that where things don't feel like it's going right. But to have that community,
Mm.
I just love it. You
Yeah.
are amazing. You are amazing. So to everyone listening,
Likewise.
thank you. As we step into 2026, don't abandon your dreams because the calendar changed. It's just a calendar change. Let it be the year that you stop waiting for permission and start walking in purpose. Because it isn't about pressure. It isn't about, doing like we are being, right? It's not about
Not
doing.
about
It's about
comparison
alignment.
either. We don't
Yes,
compare
it's
to other
not
people.
about
Somebody else's dream is bigger than yours. Who cares? Their dream is not your dream.
exactly. We all walk in our own shoes. So it's about alignment, it's about obedience, and it's about beginning. You have to start somewhere. So express yourself. We are created by the Creator to be creatives, and that's what we are. Don't wait. Your time is now, right now. So walk
Not
in
one
aloha.
day. Today is day
Yeah.
one, right?
Yes, today is day one. It's not one day, it's day one. Day one. Even though it's January 2nd, it is still day one today,
Tomorrow will
right
be day
now.
one as well if we let it as well. If we allow it and if it's in
Yeah,
alignment, every new action is day one and day one and day one. There is
every
only now.
step. Every step. That's right. Your time is now. So walk in aloha, deliver your dreams, and never, ever forget your voice is your superpower, and what God has planned for you is now. So just don't forget your dreams. Thank you again, Sally, for being here. Everyone, this is Sally Lean. Lean in and go and do it. Go to the
Yes.
milliondreams.org, Million Dreams
Million,
Movement.
million, million dreams.
Yes, milliondreamsmovement.org. I want to see everyone's dreams on there because can we all look at everybody's dreams? Is that how it goes?
No, some people
No,
are not ready to
no.
share publicly,
That's
but
right.
yeah,
Publicly.
when
Why
they
would
are, if they give permission, we will be able to share along the way. And very shortly, in the next couple of days, there'll be a Facebook group starting as well. So maybe they want to jump in
that
there and
would
share
be
as well.
yeah, that would be lovely. And then everyone can actually start sharing their
Create
dreams.
a community of dreamers who are really going for it, right? Not just
I
dreaming,
love
but doing as
that.
well.
A community of dreamers. Yes, that is incredible. Thank you again, everyone. This is Sally Lean.
Thank you, Michelle.
Do reach out to her. Aloha and ahui ho. Until next time, Michelle Ebalaroza Kawano and Sally Lean. Until next time, bye now.
Thank you for joining us here on the Walking in Aloha, Let's Talk Story podcast. Before leaving, please hit that subscribe button. God's blessings always and ahui ho.